What up? This is
So,
the State of Nativewind. Today is August 6th, 2025. I'm doing these intros now, announcing the date, by the way, Mark, so that later when I'm editing them, I know which one I'm editing. Because
that's
otherwise,
actually a really good plan.
right.
Yeah.
Now we do the intro, of you're Dan and I'm Mark. And
Yeah.
yeah.
That's how our
So,
names look in the chat.
yeah. So why don't you go ahead first?
I'm Mark. I'm creator of Nativewind.
I am Dan. I am maintainer community person for Nativewind and co-author of Nativewind UI. So today I think we're catching up primarily on version 5 updates. You've been going ham, Mark, in the documentation updates to be made. I'm having a little bit of anxiety over all the stuff I'm going to have to change. So we can go into that first. I think Nativewind UI has fewer updates, but a couple. So we can jump right into it. I didn't accumulate. Also, I don't have any questions from the audience this week. So yeah, why don't you go ahead with version 5 updates?
Cool. Okay, so I guess the good news is the version 5 is being used by some people for testing, and it's coming along really well. But I'm getting a lot of feedback on how to adjust things. So I'm making those small adjustments. But the good news is that I think the actual public release, proper people using it release, is going to be coincided in time with the Expo beta release as well. So
Okay.
there'll probably be
For
a
SDK
late
54.
Yeah, for SDK 54, which is good because we require SDK 54. So that's going to stop people having to test out different things.
Okay.
So part of the reason why we require SDK 54 is just for some of the changes that Expo's kind of done under the hood with their Metro config, which we use. So it just kind of aligns more with that. And so that's just going to make the beta testing program a little bit easier for people if they're not using Expo canaries with Nativewind canaries. Everything should be stable now for the beta because we now have Reanimated, we now have Expo, we have Nativewind. We're all going to be finally all on stable versions.
Hell yeah.
Which is good.
You said, okay, so then Nativewind version 5, reflecting Tailwind version 4, is going to require Expo SDK 54, or, oh my God, wait, that's right, that 54. I'm not losing my mind.
Yes.
And
that's because we require Reanimated V4 and SDK, and because of the changes in Reanimated V4, Expo SDK 54 is the first proper SDK to support it out of the box. You can use older versions of the SDK, but you'll have to update Reanimated yourself. Like it's one of those, like, if you know what you're doing, you can go outside the SDK versions. But like things like Expo install Reanimated and the automated setup won't work properly.
Understood.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You mentioned window of time was September, I think you said.
Oh, that'd be
August?
for the SDK release, but the beta version of the SDK,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
When was that?
That should be in August sometime. I know that the canaries are already being published and a changelog is being worked on, so should expect that fairly soon.
Great. Okay. We got a question from Tanner also regarding Nativewind 4 Reanimate. Yeah, that's it. Or you're saying like backported support for Reanimated 4.
So backporting support is quite difficult because of internal changes in Reanimated. In Reanimated 3, they had a mode called strict mode. And then in version 4, they made strict mode the default or the only mode. We don't follow strict mode in current Nativewind because we have to polyfill, how Reanimated works. So we were operating in the non-strict mode. So unfortunately, it doesn't work with the new version because they took away that option. So you'll have to wait for the upgrade for Nativewind 5 to work with Reanimated 4.
And no anticipation on support, like backporting then after the fact. Like we're just going to be like version 5 and we're moving forward.
Yeah, when software mentions say that version 4 is backwards compatible with version 3, they meant if you were following all the rules of strict mode and operating correctly, which we weren't. So
big surprise.
The big surprise.
Okay.
We weren't following that, and so therefore, like, we won't be able to make those changes. That's because we were custom for a technical reason. For people who know Reanimated, there's the shared values inside Reanimated, and we were handling them during the render and not handling them inside effects, which was the old way of using Reanimated and not supported anymore.
Okay. All right. So we'll definitely want to throw that into the installation guide, I think, when we have the version things up. Like I said,
we can put a note in the installation guide that if you know what you're doing, you could use an old SDK version, but
you've immediately eliminated like 99.8% of people right there in that sentence alone, right? Like, so it's basically you and Hearbot, I think, right? Like that's yeah, we'll add that note for Hearbot. Cool. We have a lot of updates to make to the documentation then. That's awesome. And the eager beavers of the Nativewind community can jump right, and I guess the Expo community and the Reanimated community can jump in and start messing around with stuff this month with all of those things. And then we'll kind of be tightly coupled to the Expo release schedule because Reanimated 4 is already out there, right? So
yeah.
We're basically tightly coupled to the Expo SDK 54 release timeline. Yeah. So if you're tracking that, then you're basically tracking Nativewind version 5. So, okay. And then we just we have a ton of documentation updates to be making.
Yeah.
Then if Nikita is watching, I guess he's very happy now because he gets to do a bunch of things. Cool. That's good. Any specific things you want to highlight about version 5 that have surfaced in the last week
I guess there's
or two?
One thing that I'll have to surface is that I did want there to be no breaking changes in this upgrade in terms of the API, but there will be one breaking change here to do with the dynamic mapping modifier. So this modifier, it's a very edge case tool. I'll put it.
Yeah, I can post it in the.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. I'll post it in the chat.
Allowed you to move classes around, styles around. So if you were dealing, say you wanted to put like text color on something, except that accepted the color property as a prop and not as a style, this modifier allowed you to move where that style was positioned. So you could dynamically map it from being a style onto a prop. The problem that we've encountered is that the prefix for this modifier, the two braces that we use to represent props, is not allowed in Tailwind V4. We've tried to make it work, but the actual modifier itself just can't get it to work. So the breaking change is that we're going to have to change that from being a old braces to a new modifier, which we call app prop.
Okay.
So that'll be in the documentation. That should hopefully just be a find and replace across the project. But it will just be a very small change for a very niche thing that I don't think too many people use.
Right. I was trying to pull it up, but StreamYard's share screen thing is not great at supporting tab sharing. So I guess you'll just have to kind of go there by yourself.
Okay.
Not you, the proverbial you, the audience you.
Yes.
Okay. So then I'm happy to give like Nativewind UI updates if you'd like
I got
to.
a couple more.
Yeah, go for it. Go for
We
it.
can talk about. So, wait, what was I going to say about this dynamic mapping? The other thing I kind of just want to highlight that a lot of people are getting caught out with is the upgrade to Tailwind. Is we need to make sure that people follow the Tailwind upgrade guide itself. So Tailwind have their own V3 to V4 upgrade guide where they have their own breaking changes. And we need to ensure that people follow that guide as well. Because there's a lot of little things in there. I'll link this as well that people are getting caught out on, especially on native where things like rounded corners are very popular and those classes changed, which are catching people out.
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to put in the time to have, you know, a doctor type of thing to just like at least analyze or give some semblance of why things might not be working. But there's a series of different. Yeah. There's a series of them that are quite challenging to like surface to the person as far as understanding their intentions versus their implementations.
Yeah, Tailwind does have an upgrade tool. Like you can run npx at Tailwind CSS/upgrade. I haven't tested it out, but apparently it should handle a lot of changes inside your files for you. So it should go through and update all these classes. I haven't tested it out to see how good it is, though.
So what is this specific one that you shared then?
So if you look at this link, there's like removed utilities and renamed utilities. We used to support some of the deprecated utilities that have been removed, and some utilities have just completely been renamed. So if you were using them before, you'll have to go through your code base and change those.
Okay. I'm going to try sharing.
The big ones here are things like shadows being changed, rounded being changed. They are the big ones that kind of caught people out.
Okay, so this is in reference to the upgrade tool Tailwind has.
Yeah.
So what's going to even be the dynamic then for folks sort of going between the Tailwind documentation and the Nativewind documentation, knowing when to reference one versus the other?
The first step is really we walk people through our upgrade guide, and then as the last step, they need to go through and read this guide here to understand, is there anything that they need to change?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because the other thing that's inside this list are, especially around like if you're using custom variants or arbitrary values, like the syntax for those have slightly changed as well. So people will need to update the syntax of the classes that they were using.
Right. I have recently switched to Mozilla Firefox. It is a trip of a switch from Chrome. I'm not going to lie. Okay. Yeah, so people definitely want to become familiar with this stuff prior to making the upgrade. Quite a bit of changes between V3 and V4 for Tailwind.
Yeah, a lot of them are web. Like they don't really relate to native. Yeah, for example, like stacking order. We don't have stacking context in the same way as the web does. I was gonna say we don't have it, but we actually do have it now. Or stuff like like the space between selector, we don't support. So there's just like little tidbits inside there that you'll have to change.
Right. I saw. See you, Tanner. Thanks for jumping in. I saw that Gabby was having trouble with the custom font stuff. I know we need to update the guide for that, even for version 4 of Nativewind. What's that going to be like working with custom fonts in version 5?
Cool. Yeah, so we're still going to kind of keep the support for custom fonts. I think we'll just update the documentation. So there's going to be better support for custom fonts in Expo moving forward. So things like the icons and the fonts are kind of getting merged together. And a lot of the fonts that you can now use are more variable fonts in iOS, and Android. And so because of these new support for better fonts, it means that we can update our guide to mostly point at the Expo repo of how to set up fonts. And then your font classes should just work out of the box for them.
Okay.
So we have a guide of how to set up custom fonts, but it's not really a guide because font handling on native is a little bit wacky. But it basically said, like, if you want proper support, you need to create a variable font and use that. But that's a little bit outdated now that most people are using variable fonts. We'll also be changing the default. So like the system default font is changing on a lot of the devices to now use like the San Francisco font and stuff like that, which is now a variable font. So it should scale properly across things. This mostly affects iOS. On Android, variable fonts are still a little bit funky. So we're still kind of working on getting that. But a lot of this is going to be because Expo is improving their font support. So therefore, we can piggyback on the back of that.
Okay. All right. So should be more straightforward, sort of moving into the future then.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll probably just be updating our docs to mostly point at the Expo docs for font loading instead of the very vague docs that we have at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned some other aspects of version 5.
Yeah, so a lot of this is just like the new features that make stuff really easy. So we've now added support for nested media queries. So that's being able to define, say, like :root with your variables inside of it, and then actually put the media queries inside the selector. Let's get you some good docs for this.
Check the private chat. Are you sending something along in the private chat?
Yeah, I was going to once I find an actual thing for it.
Okay. I was gonna send along your myriad of posts here for the docs. I was gonna share a screen for that.
For some reason, the Indian docs media query don't include nested media queries.
That's good. That's promising.
A little bit annoying, even though they've been supported in all the browsers since forever, like quite a while ago. Anyway, essentially, basically, global support for nested media queries has now jumped into the 90th percentile on the web. So Tailwind has switched to nested media queries for some things, and before we used to invert the query. So we used to like unnest them and parse them that way, but now we actually parse them as a nested. So this means that you could actually write your own nested media queries. It's going to make writing themes for multiple platforms much easier to do. Nice. We'll have a good example of that in the doc, but I guess like as a text example, I could just send you this one. Nice. But that's not going to code format inside the Streamlabs chat.
Yeah. I'm curious how this will even. Oh God, I don't even think this is going to translate very well.
We'll see.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. Oh goodness, it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, you can define your root and then put the media queries inside the root instead
Right.
of actually having it on the other way around. It looks a lot better when it's actually code formatted properly.
Sure.
We'll have to work on getting a nice code view going for these calls.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. This is an ongoing learning process. I've learned a lot about YouTube and all these streaming things over the last like however many months we've been doing this stuff. So, all to say, I would not want to be making a living as a YouTube person. This all seems miserable. So, yeah, okay. So we got nested media queries. Just looking through the list of other stuff you've posted here, it's like platform specific style sheets. Oh, that's cool. So you have like a global, global.ios.css, a global.web, and then one for Android as well.
Yeah, so technically we've always had this feature, but it was never useful because you would never use this. So we've always, to describe this to people, we always say like you can have like a global style sheet and import that. So it's like your global.css. But now your global.css is also your Tailwind config file that defines your variables for different platforms. So you can use media queries to set values per platform. But the other way that you can do it is actually just define multiple style sheets and use a platform extension so that the import goes to a particular platform. So if you just do like import global, when it goes to resolve what that import is, it will automatically look for like ios.css, native.css, android.css. So you can set up different style sheets per platform to have different values. So if you have a very complex theme that's very different between different platforms, it might be easier to have literally different CSS files than it is to actually have.
That is something we face with Nativewind UI a bit. There's quite a few differences there, so that's going to be interesting to play around with. What else do we have here? Did you put in changes from V? Oh, okay. I thought you meant V3 of Nativewind, and I was like, Mark,
No.
you seem to not understand. We don't have that. Okay. Yeah, so this is the migration guide you were talking about. Dynamic mapping modifier.
Yeah, that's the breaking change we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Is this light dark stuff meant to be like a class-based support of dark mode?
So this is an alternative to dark mode. Light dark, for people who don't know, is a CSS function that is literally called light-dark, and then you give it two values. And when it's inside light mode, it'll use the first value, and then you go inside dark mode, it'll use the second value. It's an alternative to doing a media query. You can think of it as a media query for that one particular rule, but it sits inside the normal rule block. And it just cuts down how much syntax you need to write for things. So we will support light dark mode or light dark for values. So you could set like your theme, instead of setting a light theme and a dark theme, you could just have one theme that has light dark values.
Got it. Okay.
The thing that we don't support is if you keep scrolling down. Actually, you might scroll back up and click on the link for color scheme in that paragraph. We don't support color scheme. We might do this in the future. So color scheme is a CSS rule to force a color scheme inside that render tree. So instead of your computer being in dark mode, you can say that this particular div is in dark mode even though everything else is in light mode. So you can force like certain colors. You can also force it to be like, it will always be only dark mode or only light mode, no matter what like your computer's setting in. So you can't be overridden. We don't support that at the moment. I am thinking about doing it as a future version, a feature in the future if people want it.
But that would just be like a minor patch version update, though.
Yeah, just be a minor. It'd just be a minor version.
Okay. And then let's see. I mean, there's a series of different like properties here, all of which I guess largely will be documented when the version 5 docs go up. I guess, I mean, we could probably, how do you feel about us starting to like basically implement that?
I think we should start on these on the docs and start publishing them and get them out so people can start read them.
Yeah, but there's not going to be like drastic changes to them. Like they're largely, So
if anything, this is going to be more new pages for the new features.
Okay, so then we'll start a project on that front and just start putting everything together in the way of content.
Actually, another new feature is currentColor that we support. So currentColor, for people who don't know, is a special CSS keyword. You can use it as a color value for something, like a border width, or your border color could be set as currentColor. And what that does is it takes the current text color, so what you use as the color value, and applies it to that as well. So, for example, if you want your underlines or your borders to always be the same color as the text color, but you don't want to have to keep setting them together, you can just use the currentColor keyword as well. So we will support that as well in the theming.
Okay, cool. This is going to be a great opportunity to sort of like almost write from scratch rather than updating existing stuff. It's going to be a bunch of work, but I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, it should be good to get some more detail on some of the doc pages there.
Okay. So then I'll probably aim to publish a first variant of that beginning of September-ish, if not sooner. And then we'll sort of like incrementally update on it, but it won't be the default for a while, right? So it'll be something you'll have to select, and then it'll clearly indicate that this is still like beta canary or whatever we want to call it. I think that's how we'll handle it. Is there a window for whatever stable quote unquote release of 54 will be?
I don't believe
like not yet
a window has been announced, but like typically, if you count the months between SDK releases, it would probably be around September, October. That's typically when it was. I forget when the release was last year. I think it was mid-September. I can't remember.
Okay. All right.
But it would be around about the same time. I think there's going to be a lot of alignment this time because for people paying attention, there's a lot of like Expo stuff happening, especially around the iOS components. There's the Expo UI library that's being worked on. Rada has things like the new tabs component that they're working on. So I think there's going to be a lot of like timing to try and get the SDK out so that when the new iOS version comes out, everyone has those components ready to go.
Cool. All right. Well, this all looks great then. We finally have timeline for everything, and we'll gradually be rolling things out through, I guess, September, October. Unless there's any, I saw you posted something. What is this thing you posted? Oh, this is the color value thing. Okay. Yeah, no real updates on the Nativewind UI front predominantly. I'm actually gonna be expanding the templates section quite a bit more. And we're working on there's been some interest expressed in a enterprise like usage based pricing deal. So that'll be a thing. Did not think that would ever happen, but apparently there's interest in it. So that and the focus on the templates, and will be over the coming months. Zach recently put in, who works on Nativewind UI, he's the co-author of Nativewind UI as well. He is wrapping up some awesome work he's been doing on React Native reusables. He shifts back to working on Nativewind UI stuff over the next, I want to say next month or so. We'll probably make a lot of the components, if not all of them, free, with the emphasis being on the paid template stuff and some blocks that we're introducing. So yeah, that's the bulk of the update. I think the companion app still hasn't quite made it to Android. We had the 12 days of 14 testers or something, and they were just like, we want you guys to chill for another 2 weeks. And we're like, great, awesome. Okay. Thanks, Google. Yeah. And then I actually have someone working on the companion app equivalent for Nativewind. So hoping to add like a little QR code to the documentation on the Nativewind site, so that people can actually see and ideally play around with the styles in line with the documentation. I'll be taking a look at that today and providing further guidance. I wouldn't expect that probably till like later this month though. But yeah, that's the bulk of the update. Again, unless there's anyone who wanted to bring up a question before we call it, that's going to be it for this week's State of Nativewind. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for joining. Yeah. Adios.
All right. See you later, guys. Catch you.